Welcome back, y'all. I'm Sheila. She's Kimberly. Fandom is ageless, and we are forever fangirls.
And yes, she said y'all. We have seen Netflix's new movie, The Electric State, but the bigger question here is, should you?
So let's dig right in and discuss the good, the bad, and the cute of The Electric State. Now, we have to mention that the first part of our discussion is going to be spoiler-free, and then we are going to go into spoiler territory, but we'll let you know before that happens.
Yeah, and a viewer actually recommended that we pick up the art book by Simon Stålenhag, and I apologize if I said that wrong. Sadly, we didn't get a chance to do it before we saw the film, but the book blurb kind of stuck out to me regardless of the film's direction, and I'm going to read a good chunk of it. So, a runaway teenager and her small yellow toy robot travel west through a strange American landscape where the ruins of gigantic battle drones litter the countryside, along with the discarded trash of a high-tech consumerist society addicted to the virtual reality system. That is a powerful message in an ever-changing landscape of misinformation and escapism to the extreme. And it reminded me very much of Ready Player One.
Yeah, I still haven't seen Ready Player One.
We really are going to have to do a reaction video of you like watching it with me.
But back to The Electric State.
Back to The Electric State, yes.
On Rotten Tomatoes, critics seem to not like this film. No, they gave it a tomato meter of 13%. However, fans gave it a popcorn meter of 75% at the time of this recording. So, yeah, that's a big difference.
That's a significant difference. And, you know, truthfully, I don't understand why the disparity is such, but we are not here to speculate.
But we have ideas.
We have ideas. But it's time to dive right into the good.
Mm-hmm. So during our trailer reaction, I was laughing out loud with the funny one-liners.
You were.
And this actually continued throughout the film because I was laughing at the other one-liners that came about.
Yeah, I think that what sold the one-liners for me was actually the chemistry between Anthony Mackie, who is the voice of Herman, Chris Pratt, who is Keats, and Millie Bobby Brown is Michelle Green. Their chemistry as the trio, I think, made it really, made it work for me.
Yeah. The other thing that made it work is the fact that they really did bring out what the 90s looked like, right? It reminded me, especially how Millie Bobby Brown dressed. That's how I dressed. Yes, that's how I dressed during the 90s. And I think you mentioned that people didn't quite agree with that.
No, I had read a few comments that she was too old and that she looked too old. And, to give an example, and it's a little personal one, I went to a concert when I was a minor with my dad. We went to Madison Square Garden in Manhattan, and I was hit on by a college student. I was 11. It isn't because, I look older. I dressed older.
But you're also tall.
I'm very tall. But the idea is, the 90s were very different. We wanted to look older. We deliberately made ourselves look older. And frankly, the character has been through a war. Yeah,
that tends to
just ages you a little bit. So I think Millie Bobby Brown did very well. I think she did the best she could with what she was given. And I think it's a strong performance to her filmography.
I have to agree with that, yeah.
Now, as far as Chris Pratt, in the trailer reaction, I had mentioned that I was very concerned that if he did his Star-Lord, act, so to speak, I would see Star-Lord and it would take me out of it.
Okay.
He played Star-Lord.
Did it take you out of it?
No.
Oh.
Here's why.
Okay.
I do, again, lean back to the chemistry of the three of them, and I think that the other two helped balance it out in a way where it felt different. So I wasn't going, oh, here comes Star-Lord. I was going, what is Keats up to next?
Ah, okay.
So it felt a little bit better and a little bit different. So I was thankful for that because I didn't, it was just one of those things where you see someone do a certain role and when you see it over and over again, you're like,
Well, I really did enjoy Anthony Mackie as the voice of Herman. It was hilarious. Just thinking about some of the things that they said, especially towards the end, I'm like, oh. Yeah.
But speaking of like the connectivity with the end and everything else, the music throughout, I thought worked very well and was extremely nostalgic. And, there are sequences that make you laugh because the music is the undertone. There are sequences that make you cry because the music really pulls it out of you.
Yeah.
And frankly, I really loved the music.
I was dancing to Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch.
It's just
Still,
again, you're gonna have nostalgic connections if you've lived through that decade. You can't help it. It's just like watching Stranger Things, where you're like, oh my God, Ghostbusters. Oh my God, this. You can't help it.
right.
So it's not overdone either. I don't think it's too much in your face.
Well, what's interesting is that there were a couple of times when there was music and it was heavy metal that I had no idea what it was, but you were like, oh wow, that's cool.
And I was singing it.
Yeah. So,
but I have very eclectic music taste. I listen to everything.
Yeah. But I mean, in that scene, it actually worked. So I was fine with it.
But again, I have to say it was well done where it didn't overwhelm the story. It just felt like it was part of it and enhancing it. So I really liked that. But I will say, no matter what, there is this powerful underlying message that hits home, especially with what's going on right now in the United States at the time of this recording. And we will discuss more of that in the spoiler section.
Yeah. But before we go to the bad, we also have to mention that the visual effects, the special effects, were phenomenal here.
Yes.
For a Netflix film.
Definitely for Netflix, but it's the Russo brothers.
Yeah. Well.
I'm also going to say in the bad.
Mm-hmm. We're going into the bad.
Going into the bad.
Okay.
Since you ended with special effects, there is a scene or two for me where they seemed odd, and it wasn't like 90s like video footage where like jumpy or whatever. It just seemed like the face wasn't attached to a body, or it was like slightly off to the right or the left. It was just weird.
You mentioned that, and I was like, I didn't see it.
Yeah, I don't want to spoil where it is and whatnot, but it was like one or two quick clips, and it was just jarring for me. So on the grand scheme of things, it's super nitpicky.
Yeah, well, I was just, going with the flow.
Yeah.
Going with the flow.
My biggest issue with this, I felt there was a lot of exposition given to us during the film instead of seeing it happen. And I think that could have been done and developed if we had maybe a 2-part film. And again, Netflix has done 2-part films like Rebel Moon Part 1 and Part 2. So maybe that turned them off from this, but maybe it could have been a 2-part film or a limited series, because the story is thin. And I don't know if it's thin by choice or if it's thin. Well, I mean, it would be by choice, but if it's thin because they had less time there, if they had 2 films or they had like maybe a 4, episode limited series, would they have been able to develop it more? Would they have been able to create more depth? And furthermore, would they have been able to use Stanley Tucci to
better?
Yeah, because it just, every character, we got glimpses, but not a lot of depth of them. And I think had they had more time, we would have gotten more, and we would have understood why people do what they do and why we are where we are. And I kind of didn't get that.
Well, I mean, for me, yes, I agree that the story is thin. However, it could also be how, the editing was. There could be all of those little things that ended up on the cutting room floor that could have given, a little bit more substance to it. We don't know.
Maybe, but I think to give as much development and backstory that I'm looking for, like even the ending scene, I would have liked to actually see the ending scene play out and not just cut off. I know it's not necessarily, it was probably considered not necessarily overly important to the story, but for me, it was very important because they laid the groundwork for the particles conversation. So I want to see the particles conclusion, and it was a good ending. It just wasn't
what you were looking for.
What I was looking for, right.
Yep.
So I don't know if they had more time, if they would have been able to do that.
And they might have filmed it. We just didn't see it. But
then I can also say, if they had had more time, I don't think they could have edited this whole section out. And that's the ramifications for the characters' actions. We don't know where the world goes from here. There's no inkling, no hint, no nothing. And I think it would have been interesting to delve into that. And I think that would have needed like 4 episodes.
Well,
or 2 movies.
We never know, right? The ending seemed to indicate that there might be a second film, but again, we don't know.
Ooh, I don't know if they'll make I didn't see how they could make a sequel from this.
We never know. But anyway,
Never know. Yeah.
Anything else about the bad?
No, I think we should admit in the cute that Herman was adorable. I absolutely love Anthony Mackie's character. I
Yes.
love his portrayal of it. I loved the one-liners and the cute zingers. I absolutely loved everything about it.
Yeah, for me, the other adorable, that's like the best friend, interaction. The cute part for me was the brother and sister, in the flashbacks, showing how their relationship really, develops, and that, they have that sibling banter, rivalry type thing going on. So I thought that was cute. So our final verdict and thoughts. Well, for me, it's a beautiful, beautiful film. It's worthy of watching, and maybe having a few tissues nearby just in case.
Yes,
because I needed them.
Yes, you did. For me, it is truly a powerful message that I think we need to take to heart. Technology is and always has been an amazing tool, but we can't lose ourselves in the algorithms that keep us scrolling. And yes, I understand the irony that I'm saying that while we are posting this video to YouTube.
So what do we score it?
I wanted to say 4 out of 5.
Look at that. We agree.
We agree?
Yes, I think it was 4 out of 5 too.
Excellent. All right, so before we jump into our spoiler section, if you are leaving now, thank you so much for tuning in. Please make sure you like and subscribe. And if you do see the film, please leave us a comment what you think. And if there's something you want us to review in the future, just let us know in the comments below.
Yes.
So in our intro, we mentioned the disparity between the reviewers and the audience members. And maybe that's because they felt the message was heavy-handed or in your face or overblown. But for me, that message hit hard. And maybe it's because of what's going on right now in the US. But for me, the message was about equality, diversity, and how that benefits our society.
And it's a powerful theme, right? I mean, we're all different.
Yeah.
How we interact and how we learn from each other is what will help us become a better nation, a better community, a more informed community. It's a good thing.
Yeah. And another thing that people maybe don't see is that augmented reality and social media scrolling is as addicting as heavy drugs. It's meant to do that. It's meant to keep you there. They design it that way. It's dividing people. But like we mentioned, it's also an amazing tool. Electronic devices, social media, all of that, it's an amazing tool because it connects across these massive divides. Our voices are heard all over the world, but we still can't live there. We still can't believe everything that happens in that AR world or whatever social media is feeding us. We have to live outside of those manufactured environments.
Yeah, exactly. In the film, there's a specific scene that really hit hard for me specifically, where Stanley Tucci's character, Ethan Skate, is actually in the AR talking to his loving, doting mother who's making him stuffed peppers. Right? Later, we find out that she was actually a mean drunk and an even meaner person when she was sober who didn't treat him well. And, through the AR, he is offering this ability for millions of people to escape their realities. But it's all a lie, right? Life is not meant to be all sunshines and rainbows. It's the struggles that we face, that we learn from and overcome that make us who we are. It's part of the human condition. And human beings are social creatures. And there is a quote here in the film that I want to read, actually, because I think it's very powerful. And that is, quote, "Real life, it's contact. It's you, it's me. We're flesh and bone, yeah, but we're also electricity. And when we hug and we laugh and hold hands and argue, my particles stay with you and yours stay with me. And maybe we stay together forever. But that can't happen if you close yourself off. It can only happen out here in the real world." End quote.
And in the real world, you're going to find your people. Might take a while, but you'll find your people. You're also going to find differing opinions. You will find all the things you fear, but you're also going to find the things you crave. And you know what? Maybe if we did that, our combined electricity would power us through what we're going through right now in the United States. Because, my wife and I aren't robots begging for freedom. But we are members of the LGBTQ plus community, desperately trying to hold on to the legality of our marriage and the freedom to love who we love. We're women. We want to have control over our bodies and our health care and be able to make decisions for one another as well as our families when it comes to that point. We just want to be treated like everyone else.
Yes. So I am a person of color, in case you haven't noticed. I'm an immigrant, but I am also a U.S. citizen. Beyond these descriptions, I am a human being just like anybody else. But the U.S. government has seemingly forgotten that fact. Just know that you are not alone. Like my wife said, you will find your people who will love you for who you are. And I think that's also why we felt that this film was a worthy watch.
And maybe that's why audience scores were higher than critic scores. Maybe that message was resonating more with them. But we want to hear from you. What do you think of the Electric State? What do you think the message was, and how did it affect you? If you want to see how our trailer reaction stacked up against our movie review, you can click the link in our description below.
So, until next time, stay safe, be kind, and remember, there's a world of diversity, beauty, and adventure outside of your devices. All you need to do is to disconnect to truly be connected.